Hello there and welcome to this tutorial series. Here I'm going to be showing you how to create these two landscapes you see on the screen, and I will try to teach everything I know about landscaping. I mean the basics where you can start working on your own stuff. These two landscapes basically use the same two materials and just some minor differences. So let's jump into it. First, we are going to create a new level and let's save it with a name. We will delete all the unnecessary stuff you see on there. Now, if you open the landscape tab, you will be welcomed with this green grid. This is going to be your landscape. You can set the sections and size. Basically, these are what you set your landscapes to different resolutions, and you should only touch those. You do not touch the scale values because that just screws your landscape up, so try to use the values below. Now we have created our landscape and you can jump into it and play. I will just set this to selected viewport so that it won't open a new window all the time. Let's start working on our landscape. This is just gonna be a showcase. So in the sculpt tab with the sculpt option selected, you can, well, as the name suggests, you can sculpt. You can set the strength and the radius of your paintbrush, let's call it that. And as you can see, you can just play away on the landscape. Alternatively, you can press shift and do indentations, and now I am using the smooth tool and now the flatten one. The names are pretty self-explanatory. You can set the radius to pretty big, and actually on the left side you can manually type in the size you want. It's not limited to 8192. Okay, now that we've done that, I'm just gonna go to select the landscape and delete it, because what I want to do is a little height map, and I will just show you really quickly how I created the height map that we are gonna be using in this video. So this is GIMP. It's like Photoshop, but it's an open source software, so it's free and it's pretty powerful. I'm not a big Photoshop man myself, so I usually use this. And here I just paint on a dark gray background with lighter grays to try to create a landscape height map. This is 505 by 505. So this is not going to be a very high resolution landscape, but we don't need it anyway. So let's go back to Unreal Engine 4 and click on Landscape under the Modes tab. And here, what we are going to select is, I'm going to enable Edit Layers, then Import from File, and I will browse for the file. Just to confirm, I will open up GIMP and check if that's the one. That's the one. Open, and it will create it. It's not gonna look like that in the grid, but as soon as you click on import, it will fill it out. If you have a landscape material, you can already set it up there, as you can see. I imported, and here is the landscape. Now it looks very blocky. I actually kind of like it, but we are gonna smooth it out in a little bit. So I can just come in here and play. Maybe I will do something with this landscape without smoothing it out in some other video, because I really like the blocky feel, even though it's not what I intended. So we are in landscape mode. As you can see, I'm just gonna select the smooth option and set the radius to the highest possible, which is not gonna be high enough. Set the fall off to a minimum so that it doesn't have a fall off. And I'm just gonna set it to 16,000 there. And just brush it over with the smooth. And as you can see, it smooths out those rough edges. And Arguably it looks worse now, but we are gonna stick with it. And please don't mind the blue text. I will remove that at some point. Okay, so let's start creating the material. I'm just gonna create a new folder for this tutorial and a material folder. And in here, let's create a new material, landscape material. So, on to the point. Now here we have our material editor, and we are gonna add a landscape layer blend material here, node, sorry. So we have it. And now we are just gonna create the layers. Now I want an auto layer, which we are not gonna use right away. That's in a later video where we create the auto material part, but I already create the layers. And now let's create our other layers. I want the grass layer. I want the rock layer. And I want a path layer. You can create the color nodes or the vector nodes by holding 3 and then just click somewhere on the canvas. I'm just gonna plug everything in. And reorganize my lines because yes, the first gonna be the grass. The auto and the grass is gonna be the same for now, and when we create the auto material it's gonna be different. So I want the middle gray for the rock and an orangish brown for the path. Now here we can break the material attributes and plug everything in, but you will see in a moment that we are going to get an error because what comes out of the layer blend in this case is not actually a material, it's just a vector, which is basically just going to be a color. So we are going to delete this break material attributes in a moment. And just plug it into the base color, because now we have a material, but we don't use any normal maps or anything of the sort. Here I'm gonna create a constant. Alternatively, you can just press 1 and click. So I want the specular to be 0 because otherwise it's gonna give me a white sheen over the materials, and I want the roughness to be 1. Because otherwise it's gonna be 0.5, which is kind of shiny, and I really don't like that on the landscape. So now that it compiled, we can actually check how it will look. So we are gonna assign this material, but first we are gonna create a material instance, which is gonna be important later on, because here you can edit the values directly without changing your base material. Now we are just gonna apply that material to our landscape, and it's gonna turn black in a moment after it compiled. Now good, don't be scared, it's just that we don't have any weight on our layers. So if I go into landscape and paint tab, as you can see there is a little plus icon next to them. We are just gonna create a weight blended layer, or a weight layer. I'm gonna do that for grass, rock, and path. And now we can actually paint these layers, as you will see in a moment. Okay, let's select rock, and as soon as you start painting, it's gonna compile, but it won't be long, and it only has to do it once. So now we have done some painting, and it looks pretty nice. It's not perfect, but it's gonna be good for our purposes. Now, to make our landscape look a bit more realistic, I have a few textures from the Mega Scans. and we are just going to paste them in place of our solid colors. This is going to be essentially the same as with the colors, but we will use textures instead. Now, it isn't going to look perfect, even though I am using high quality textures, which I advise to all of you because that makes a difference. So now it will compile and our results will be seen soon. We already see the grass. It doesn't look that different, but we are looking at it from far away. So as soon as we zoom in or press play, you see that everything we painted with rock now has the rock texture, the grass has the grass texture, but it doesn't look very nice. And we are gonna fix that in a future video, because in this video the whole purpose was just to create a landscape. So thank you for watching, and in the next video we are gonna be making this whole thing automatic, so we're gonna create the auto material. In the next video, which should be coming soon, I'm currently editing that one. So thank you for watching and see you next time.